Today I'm going to show you how to make 4 geocaches that are disguised as common objects. In case you don't know what geocaching is, it's a game where you use a GPS to find containers hidden all over the world. You then sign your name on the logbook inside and re-hide it for others to find. Some geocaches are very easy to find, while others can be very well hidden or disguised as a common item. In this video, I will show you how to make some of those disguised geocaches. To build the first geocache, you will need a piece of half-inch threaded rod or a half-inch by 1 inch or longer bolt. If you're using a piece of threaded rod or bolt longer than an inch, start by marking and cutting a 1 inch piece off the end. If you're using a bolt that's 1 inch long, just cut the head off. Then I put it in a drill and used a piece of sandpaper clamp to cut edge, but fire works fine too. Next, you'll need to mark the middle of one of the ends before drilling a hole that goes most of the way through, but make sure it doesn't come out the other side. I used a few drill bits of different sizes to do this. It doesn't really matter how big the hole is, just try to get as big as you can without getting too close to the sides. Next, take a half-inch nut and use a half-inch drill bit or step bit to make a little ledge in the top that's about a 1/16 inch deep. Now you'll need some half-inch by 1/16 inch magnets. Take one and glue it in the nut on the ledge you just made. I used super glue and that seems to be plenty strong, as in my testing it stayed on without any glue at all. Now you could just stuff in a log and be done, but I found that without a seal it will get damp the first time it rains. All you need to do to fix this is get a washer and O-ring the right size and shove it in the nut before screwing it together. That's it. Now all that's left to do is stick it somewhere and you have yourself a geocache disguised as a bolt. For the next geocache, you will need a blank metal electrical box cover. You can find these at any home improvement store for less than $1 each. You will also need 2 magnets, some duct tape, and a logbook and a Ziploc bag. First take the box cover and make sure the screws are in the whole way. Then flip it over and mark the screws with a Sharpie before removing them and cutting them off at the mark. Now add some glue and stick them back in place. Next, grab the magnets and glue them in 2 corners opposite one another. You're almost done, we just need to make a duct tape pocket to hold the logbook. Cut 2 pieces of duct tape, one that's just longer than twice its width, and one about 3/8 of an inch longer than it is wide. Put the long piece sticky side up on the table, and stick the short piece on sticky side down like this. Flip it over and fold the long piece up, then fold over the little tabs left over by the short piece. Now all that's left to do is stick it on the back of the cache and add a logbook and you're finished. To make the next geocache, you'll need a conduit body. You can find these at any hardware store for a few dollars. Mine's a half-inch, but you can use any size you like. You'll also need some conduit of the same size. Start by taking off the cover and get rid of the foam seal, we won't need it. Then you'll need to sand off this ridge around it. I use my rotary tool, but you can use a belt sander, a file, or whatever you have handy. Next, you need to cut off one of the screws, keeping the head in about a 1/16 of an inch of the threads. Now glue the head back in place in one of the 2 holes. Next, put the cover back on, making sure the fake screw is on the bottom, and put the second screw back into the top. Now you need to decide how to mount it. You can use a washer and a screw, or find some way to attach a magnet and cut about 4 inches of conduit for the bottom. Or if you're putting it somewhere with dirt or grass below, you can measure about 1 foot of conduit and cut an angle on the end to stick it in the ground, either by itself or along with the screw or magnet. That's it, just add a log in a Ziploc bag or a bison tube and close the cover. The next geocache is hidden under a fence post cap. You can buy these for less than $1 at most hardware stores. In addition to the cap, you'll need a plastic container or a bison tube if you have one. You could just glue it in, but I recommend using a machine screw to make sure it doesn't fall off. Start by marking the middle of the fence post cap and drilling a hole the same size as the machine screw you're using. Next, you need to attach your container to the bottom of the cap. If you're using a plastic container, just make a hole in the bottom and screw it on. Since I'm using a bison tube, you'll need some type of bracket to put the key ring on. I'm making one with a piece of half-inch EMT conduit, but you could use something else. I drilled a hole near one end to fit the machine screw, then cut it off. Now I have a piece that will hold the bison perfectly. I threaded the key ring through and fastened it to the cap with the machine screw and nut, adding a little super glue to make sure it doesn't come loose. Now just find a fence post to put it on, preferably one that's already missing the cap, as they can be quite stuck on. That's it for today's video. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any more geocaching videos or DIY projects. Bye!